The young woman had been sitting alone on the weathered bench of the Frontier train station since sunrise. Her suitcase was nearly empty, her money was gone, and tears quietly rolled down her face as every passenger walked past without a second glance. Some assumed she was waiting for someone. Others simply didn't care. Then, just before the afternoon train whistled into the station, a rugged cowboy stopped in front of her. He didn't ask about her past. He didn't judge her worn clothes. He simply removed his hat, offered a gentle smile, and said, "Don't sit alone, miss." Those 4 simple words would change 2 lonely lives forever, but neither of them could have imagined the secret waiting at the end of their journey. Stay with me until the very end, because this touching Wild West story proves that sometimes the smallest act of kindness can become someone's greatest miracle. The little railroad station of Red Willow rested quietly beneath a warm afternoon sky, surrounded by rolling hills and distant mountains that glowed beneath the western sun. Steam drifted lazily from the waiting locomotive while travelers hurried between wooden platforms carrying trunks, crates, and hopes for new beginnings. Yet among the busy crowd sat one woman who seemed completely forgotten. Her name was Clara. She wore a faded brown coat over a simple Frontier dress, and her small suitcase rested beside the weathered bench. Dust covered the hem of her skirt after days of travel, and exhaustion shadowed her gentle face. She had come west believing she would begin a new life as a schoolteacher, but the academy that had promised her work had closed before she arrived. The small savings she carried had disappeared paying for food and train fare. Now she had nowhere to sleep and no one waiting for her. People noticed her tears but quickly looked away. One businessman muttered that she should return home. Another woman whispered that she probably deserved whatever had happened. Even the station master sighed helplessly, believing there was nothing he could do. Clara lowered her head, trying not to cry where everyone could see. Across the platform, a tall cowboy finished unloading lumber from a freight wagon. His denim jacket showed years of honest labor, and his boots carried the dust of countless miles. His name was Samuel Carter, a rancher known by neighboring towns as a quiet man who spoke little but always kept his word. Samuel noticed something the others missed. He didn't see weakness. He saw loneliness. After securing his horse, he walked slowly toward the bench. Clara expected another stranger to ask uncomfortable questions. Instead, Samuel removed his hat respectfully. His voice was calm. "Don't sit alone, miss." Those 5 simple words caught her completely by surprise. She looked up with tear-filled eyes. "I'm sorry. You don't owe anyone an apology," Samuel answered kindly. "I've nowhere to go." "Then perhaps the first thing you need isn't an answer." She looked confused. "It's company." For the first time all day, someone sat beside her without expecting anything in return. They watched the train together as steam drifted into the sky. Minutes passed before Samuel spoke again. "My mother always told me that no person should face hard days alone." Clara smiled faintly. "My father used to say something very similar." Samuel nodded. "Good fathers usually do." There was no pressure, no pity, only quiet understanding. As the afternoon faded into evening, Samuel bought 2 simple bowls of stew from the station cafe. Clara tried refusing. "I can't pay you back." "I'm not asking you to. I don't want charity." Samuel smiled gently. "Neither do I." She looked puzzled. "This isn't charity. It's supper shared between 2 travelers." Well, for the first time in many days, Clara ate a warm meal without feeling ashamed. Samuel learned she loved reading to children. She discovered he spent most of his life repairing fences, caring for horses, and helping neighboring ranchers after storms. Neither spoke much about painful memories. They didn't need to. Kindness often says enough. As sunset painted the mountains gold, the station master locked the waiting room. Most travelers had already left. Clara quietly stared at the empty platform. "I suppose I'll sleep out here tonight." Samuel immediately shook his head. "I'll manage." "I know you would." "Then why not?" "Because no decent person should have to." He looked toward the western hills. "My ranch is 2 hours from here." Clara hesitated. "You don't even know me." Samuel smiled. "Sometimes kindness begins before introductions." She searched his face, expecting hidden motives. There were none, only honesty, only compassion, only the quiet strength of a man who understood loneliness better than words could explain. As the last rays of sunlight disappeared behind the mountains, Clara faced the biggest decision of her life. She had every reason to fear strangers, yet something about Samuel's calm voice reminded her of the father she had lost years before. Slowly, she picked up her little suitcase and followed the cowboy toward the waiting horse. The journey to Samuel's ranch was quiet, with only the sound of horses' hooves breaking the evening silence. Clara still wondered why a complete stranger would trust her, but Samuel never asked painful questions or expected anything in return. When they reached the ranch, he showed her a small guest room that had belonged to his late mother. "You may stay as long as you need," he said. Not as a burden, but as a welcome guest. The next morning, Clara woke before sunrise. Instead of waiting to be served, she swept the porch, prepared breakfast, and helped mend torn clothes around the house. Samuel noticed that she accepted nothing she had not earned. Her quiet dignity impressed him far more than beauty or wealth ever could. Days slowly turned into weeks. Clara planted flowers beside the old fence, filled the empty house with warm meals, and even began teaching the neighboring ranchers' children to read every afternoon beneath a large oak tree. Soon, families from miles away brought their children to her little frontier classroom. Laughter returned to a place that had been silent for years. Samuel watched from a distance, realizing the ranch no longer felt lonely. The horses seemed calmer, neighbors visited more often, and children filled the yard with cheerful voices. Clara had changed everything without ever asking for recognition. One evening, Samuel quietly admitted, "I thought I was rescuing someone that day at the station." Clara smiled gently and replied, "I think we rescued each other." For the first time in many years, both of them looked toward the future with hope instead of sorrow. Neither realized that a surprising visitor was already riding toward the ranch, bringing news that would test their courage and reveal a truth neither of them expected. A few days later, a wealthy businessman stepped off the train and arrived at Samuel's ranch. He explained that he had been searching for Clara ever since discovering that her late father had once helped save his family during a terrible winter. As a final act of gratitude, he offered Clara a large sum of money and ownership of valuable land that legally belonged to her family. Samuel quietly stepped back, believing Clara would finally leave for a richer, easier life. Though his heart ached, he smiled and wished her happiness. "You deserve every blessing that's coming your way," he said. But Clara looked around the ranch, the fields they had restored together, the children laughing beneath the oak tree, and the man whose simple kindness had given her hope when she had none. She gently folded the legal papers and smiled. "My father taught me that wealth is measured by the people who stand beside you when you've lost everything," she said. "I already found my greatest blessing here." The businessman respected her decision and donated part of the inheritance to build a proper school and clinic for the valley. Families from every nearby ranch came together to help. Samuel and Clara worked side by side, proving that kindness inspires kindness. Months later, beneath a golden sunset, Samuel asked Clara to walk beside him for the rest of their lives. She accepted with joyful tears, knowing their love had been built not on riches, but on trust, sacrifice, and respect. Their ranch became known throughout the valley as a place where no stranger was turned away hungry or hopeless. Travelers often said that if you arrived with nothing but honesty and a willing heart, you would leave with hope. Sometimes the smallest act of kindness, a simple invitation not to sit alone, can change the course of two lives forever. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who still believes kindness can change the world. Until next time, may compassion always guide your path.